The HNL season is upon us, ladies and gentlemen. It starts tomorrow. We've kind of, Richard had problems on Tuesday. I had problems yesterday, and so we have to record it, the preview today, which is Thursday. And meanwhile, we are recording. Osijek is currently finishing up the first half against Levadia, so kind of fun. So if you do not see that much of me on Twitter during the games, you know why. So Richard,
Yeah. We're getting it in
how,
perfectly for the first HNL Friday.
how are we feeling?
I mean, I'd say it's quite weird because we just obviously in the UK, most people I follow on social media are like, "Oh, it's August, the season starts," and I'm like, I kind of already been into the season for 2.5 weeks. Like the week of after the Euros final, my wife just came and saw me watching the second leg of Bravo Konoski Nomads. And she's like, "Are you not sick of football?" I'm like, "No,
No,
no.
no.
It's the first qualifying round of the Europa Conference League. This is the real shit."
Yeah, this is when it's the most fun.
Yeah,
Literally,
exactly. Yeah,
when
and
you
then
see the
once it gets to
upsets.
September,
Yeah, and you get Bruno's Magpies getting through the pub teams. That's the fun I want to see.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, of course, I'm contractually obliged to say I'm extremely excited.
There is no
um,
contract. I don't know where you're
there is no
lying.
contract. I think it's a very different feeling to this time last year, and I think where we were coming into last season in terms of the expectations for a lot of sides. I think last year we did all kind of think that, okay, we're going to have a real tight challenge at the top, which we did, but not from the side that we expected.
We expected, yeah.
Yeah. We thought Dinamo would be in trouble, which they were, but, now they're not. And we thought sides coming up, being promoted, could get more than 10 points in a season, and we were wrong.
Yeah, but
So,
we were very wrong.
yeah. So
So
it's,
yeah, I mean it's also a different kind of date. The 2 weeks ago, it was we had so the season would have started 2 weeks ago unless the rule changed, which now it means it starts at the start of August, the league.
Mhm.
So teams have had more time to prepare, especially the lower side. I'm not going to count Rijeka, Osijek, and Hajduk because their seasons have started last week, so they've kind of already begun. Meanwhile, others have had time to make transfers and reasonably have a reasonable squad to head into the first round, unlike previous seasons.
yeah, it's less a work in progress. I mean, there'll be a lot of changes between here and the end of August, no doubt.
Well, yeah,
But
obvious, especially for example, Šibenik. I think Šibenik is
yeah,
going to do a lot of business at the end.
but a lot fewer than this time last year. And I mean, yeah, I think we've even seen the past couple of days there's been a bit of a flurry.
Yeah,
Like I say, Easter with Mauritanian fellow coming in, Slavin Belupo have had a couple come in, and obviously Dinamo sorting out Kashavenda as well.
yeah. Finally, I mean, so for those that don't know the Cacciavenda uh, storyline, so last season he was on loan at Dinamo. The loan ended, so he was a Lokomotiva player up until today. But he was training with Dinamo while being contracted to Lokomotiva with a was it like a special approvement from I think both teams, Lokomotiva I think more so. So he was training with Dinamo the entire preseason, but finally, and then during the preseason, I think last week he signed a 2-year deal with Lokomotiva, and today he's signed for Dinamo. I'm just glad it's sorted.
It sounds all very above board.
Let's not get into the.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like we've had those sort of antics for a couple of seasons.
Yeah, I mean they have to come in sooner or later.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm gonna before we start about the games. I want to talk about Bruno Maric because that's getting on my nerves a lot, and I just want to get it done and over with. So the new Bernard Lietz, however you pronounce the French guy's name, is the new the head of the committee of the referees committee in the HNL, which great. I think that's a step forward having a foreign referee be at the head of the referees. apparently no, because he's brought in the guy he replaced that has lied, fabricated VR audio, uh, back. Well, not into a big job. He's just a referee overseer, but still back into a job.
Yeah.
Which I mean, that's it. We on Twitter that day we just called it that clown show. Which I mean,
And
it is.
Ossetic fans are very happy about it, aren't they?
Oh yeah, very happy. They obviously just said, "Well, he's not welcome here," and he's like, "Well, that sounds like a death threat. I'm gonna go to court. I'll take you guys to court.
Yeah.
You're spreading hate about me," and they're just like, "We don't want you here, mate. That's all."
Yeah. It's. I mean, like I say, it's very much a backward step. But I mean, so this is the problem. Just in all, as smaller nations, is you have a small pool
Yeah,
to pull from, and if you're wanting someone experienced, he might be disgraced, but he is experienced, and there's probably not too many candidates that aren't someone you're bringing in from abroad. And I suppose if you bring someone in from abroad, then he's probably going to get criticised for doing that.
yeah.
So it's lose-lose, but it obviously could have been handled a lot better.
Oh no, I mean, I would have. You could have just appointed me as the referee overseer for all I care. Just a dog, a bottle cap, whatever. It's just not him, because it's just stupid to see his name even associated with the HNL again. Which
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, fair enough. But it is. But anyways, let's get to last week's games. Let's start off with, I mean, Rijeka Corvinul, the first leg. Dreadful.
0-0.
Dreadful. No real chances. Obregon had a really good chance, but it's Obregon, so missed it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good result in the respect of, Corvinal obviously were 2 games on into their preparations, having gone through the first qualifying round. So,
Yeah,
from that perspective, probably Rick would look at it as a positive, but yeah, it is a nothing game. And I think the best you can say about it is at least, you've not come away from the away leg with a loss.
yeah. That's the most important. Corvinal wasn't an easy side. It wasn't any. It looked like a very good side, which obviously they should be in the first league, but because of the rule about the private businesses, they aren't.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, what else is there? I mean, the kid looks awful, even live. I think it does look a little bit better live, but still shocking.
I won't say anything. I like it.
I mean, yeah, like okay, the Jaws element great, but no, the worst thing for me is the gold background on the backside of the kid.
Mm.
If it was black, maybe, but when it's gold, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the match starts in an hour. The lineups have just been released, so maybe hopefully Rijeka can just get it out and sort it out, and proceed through.
Yeah, because for both Ostia and Hajduk, they did all they needed to do in the first leg.
Yeah, could have scored one more goal, maybe been a bit better in the second half. But I mean, it was the first game of the season. Can we really expect the team to be on top all 90 minutes?
But Ostia were.
Yeah, I mean, against Levadia, who absolutely gifted them like 3 goals.
Yes. And I did say last week when we were previewing it, obviously, that I'd watched Flora, and as champions, they were so bad at the back. And Levadia were, to be fair, you can sort of see why Flora were champions, because Levadia were worse.
Yeah, I mean, the match started off awfully for Osijek, obviously, because Chalna made a pretty big mistake on his debut, but I mean, immediately repeated with an assist, which you don't see often from a goalie. Yeah. And then Mieres just bullied. Bullied the defenders. And I mean, that defending was just shocking.
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking. The third goal where they're just trying to pass it around the back, and
and immediately into Mieres. Yeah,
yeah.
Great job, lads. That's playing it out to the back. But yeah, it was pretty easy. Chavlna was, I mean, good for the rest of the game except for that mistake. Didn't have much to do after that. Mieres, I mean, is Mieres. If Osiek can make him sign a contract, if you can force him to, put a signature, you gotta do it. Like, throw
Yeah,
everything you can at him. And I doubt that Boto is not doing it already.
exactly. Yeah, and
Anything
then
else to add?
no, Vladi are crap.
That's the main getaway.
Yeah,
So Hajduk obviously played against Heibi Torshan.
yeah,
I mean, Torshan didn't do much. They had some good. They were an okay side. But still, Hajduk should have probably scored an under goal just to make it 3-0. But they'll probably do it tonight. So
yeah. I mean, I think you can only sort of really go off against the direct comparisons in terms of the other Faroe sides that you see.
yeah,
And the only one anyone else has ever really seen is Kea Klaksvik in terms of how they did in the Conference League last season. Obviously, they were in the groups. They were a decent defensive outlet, but then they got hammered by Malmo in the Champions League this time around. And I think that sort of probably is the level that Hajduk should be aspiring to in terms of how comfortable they should be past that sort of side. So in a sense, it's a little bit disappointing, but I think we'll probably get on to my more thoughts on Hajduk later.
So I mean, yeah. So to quickly recap the game, the first half, all Hajduk, 2 goals. It was Kalik mainly that was the main story for me in that game. So Tsapan, very beautiful corner into Kalik, who heads it over to Remush on the other side, and then Kalik later on wins a penalty, which Levaya absolutely just blasts into the net. No Panenka, no easy save for the goalie. So he's probably learned his lesson, I think, for penalties. But yeah, Kalik for me was the main outstanding, and Tsapan brilliantly takes free kicks and corners. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Gattuso really likes him and just starts playing him more and more.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we'll see with Hajduk. I mean, obviously, we'll get into each side in a bit more depth in a bit. I mean, it's a start for Gattuso. That's there's so many managers who have that first game, and it is just complete banana skin. If you go back to Celtic against Lincoln Red Imps for Brendan Rodgers, and then that obviously begot an incredible run for them. But really, you just want to make sure you start right. And it's comfortable enough. You had a full house. Everyone went home reasonably happy.
Yeah. And now you have Sahiti, who missed the plane for the second leg.
Yeah.
I mean, it's if you had to tell me like one player is gonna miss the plane, and I have to guess, I'm guessing Sahiti, because that man. I was the least bit surprised, and I'm like, well, maybe Durdov can now start the game.
Maybe he's just got a bit of he's just hiding a bit of the Dennis Bergkamps about him in terms of just I ain't getting on the plane.
I'm not playing the second leg, boss. Okay, I'm preparing for Slaven on Sunday. Yeah. That's more important.
Absolutely. I mean, at least to be fit for it. Give him that.
I mean, yeah. He won't get tired. But but yeah. What else is there to come? I mean, Hajduk looked very good. They're something that we can see in that one game, which isn't that much. It's only one game, but we saw a lot of runs, which in the attack, which we didn't see last season, especially on the tail end when they needed it, and they weren't creating chances. But against Torshan, they showed that the players can actually make runs, and it's not the same side, but it's like 80% the same side from last season now. So that's good that Gattuso has worked on that, and we'll see. And should we slowly get into team by team?
Yeah. Do we want to go alphabetically, in which case we start with Dinamo, based on last year's table, in which case we start with Dinamo, or based on who we think will win, in which case we start with Dinamo?
I was thinking maybe we should start from the back, or I was gonna ask, are we gonna start from the back or from the top? So it's either Dinamo or Šibenik.
Well, no, we can start with who we think will finish bottom, and then it's Dinamo again. No,
Everything's Dinamo. Dinamo is gonna fit. Our predictions is first Dinamo, second Dinamo, third Dinamo, fourth
yeah.
Osijek.
I think when you had the when you did ask for tables, I think there were a couple like that, which was Dinamo Everett and Slaven seventh.
Slaven seventh. But should we? Okay, let's start with Dinamo since we already said Dinamo many times and we have mentioned Cacciavenda. So let me quickly share my screen. So I know you brought up, but here it is. The arrivals for Dinamo, and they are missing Cacciavenda obviously because Transfermarkt is a little bit slow.
Yeah.
But they have brought in obviously Marco Piazza, Nicola Chavna, who has immediately been set on loan, didn't even wait a day. Probably just signed the contract in Zagreb for Dinamo, then immediately went to Osijek to sign the loan deal. Sunny, I think I saw today. Yeah, Mai, that's how you pronounce the name.
Yeah.
Then Raul Torrente, Ivan Filipovic, and that's pretty much it for those who have come in. Everything else, as you can see, is players that have come back from loan, which, I mean, most of them have been sent back onto loan, except for Verbasic, who has been promoted from the under-19s. So, I mean, pretty good business. It's not anything spectacular, but it's good business.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's sort of more business rumored in terms of left back. And I think, again, sort of you go off newspaper rumors and gossip. I think the rumor is that they're bringing in a lad from Roma who is left back, and that Perkovic will be making way to somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's tackled the main issue that they've had for years and years and years, which is that central defense. Because we all love Theophile, but again, you can't go into Europe with him and expect to go too far. Not when he's 34. That's it's not a sight on him at all. But you've got someone who's got experience in group stages and stuff like that. You've got Torrente again, who's got experience in a higher league. You've already got at the club Bernal, who's I think he was a fitness scout, but he's okay now, isn't he?
He's fine now,
and who's clearly over last season struggled to settle in, but as things went on, he got better. So there's 3 good options there for them, which is, I think at the middle of last season, we'd probably say that's 3 more good options than they actually had.
Yeah.
At that point, I don't think there's really anyone who would argue that Dinamo are going to win the league. That are looking at it dispassionately. I think it's fair to say. They ended last season so well. And they did have to be exceptional to get past Rijeka. And we'll always sort of praise Zopic for running them so close, even if at the end it wasn't that close. But Dinamo could still afford to lose a couple of players and be fine this season. Because their competition aren't stronger.
Yeah, it isn't. I surely to comment Ivan Filipovic transfer at the beginning of the transfer window. I think that's mainly just so Zagras doesn't ever have to ever play again a big game for Dinamo. Nevestic is probably Nevestic is now obviously starting goalkeeper. Then it's Filipovic, but they're slowly gonna make way for Chavina, I think, for next season. If they can cash in into Nevestic, if he has a good season this season, especially if they get into the Champions League, that's that would be great. To comment on the transfers out, Fran Brodic, Marco Soldo, Rukavina, Šutalo, Šaranic, Bulat, Chavna, obviously. Tolic left, obviously, for Slovan Bratislava, who bought him after a loan, right?
Yeah.
And they also sent Topic on loan, and Lukanic was sold or bought by Genk, and Josip Drmic Dermich's contract expired, and he's still without a club. So he's still training with the Patia, and Kaneko's and Vidovic's loans have ended, and they have not signed a full-time deal.
Yeah. Which, I mean, again, it's fine. Brodic did well for his 6 months.
Half
really.
season, yeah.
Yeah. And they've probably done well to get a decent fee for him. They don't need him. Pekovic isn't going anywhere. Galenovic isn't going anywhere. So he was always surplus. But he was a good surplus to have.
Very good, very good surplus. Obviously, scored probably the most important goal for Dinamo last season was that penalty, which probably put them on track for everything after that.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of much of the rest of it, it's players like say who weren't really featuring. Like say Tolic was obviously on loan in Bratislava anyway. Saranic is just a weird move. I don't know why at 21 you go to the Emirates.
I know why. I have a slight hint.
yeah. But they've not lost out on anyone they couldn't do without. Again, I think there's still a little bit of motion out to go from there. Spikic, there's been a few clubs linked with him. Again, there's not really a place for him at this point with who else they've got at the club. Obviously we mentioned Pekovic as well, and they have a couple of extra bits and bobs of, let's say, these players that have come back from loan who will surely go somewhere else. Like Stafuli, someone like that. You don't need him. They don't.
No.
So what are you going to do with them? And again, they will obviously, things will be determined by the Champions League, and whether they do something late on or whether someone else does something late on to them, such as Madurna, we'll see. But
we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to poke a weakness in them.
Very hard.
Yeah, particularly, Jakiric showed that he could get a tune out of this side. And that was his criticism before last season. It was that when you get yourself into this plum job, because he had it before at Maribor and flopped big time. Can you sort of handle the pressure, handle the squad, handle the man management enough? He's shown he can.
Yeah. So to comment, Soldo obviously getting sold to Osijek. It's a pretty good move for Osijek. Soldo wasn't playing; he was on loan to Gorica last season.
Mm-hmm.
Marko Bulat, I think, is the only player that could have been left. They didn't. He could still be of use, especially if Sucic, for example, is to go to Como for 10 million, which is if I was a Dinamo fan, I would drive Sucic myself to Como for 10 million.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those moves where he's going to be in a higher profile league and probably be sold on 4 more as a result of it. I mean, obviously there was interest in him in the winter window, but this is it's no risk for Dinamo sending them out on loan.
Yeah, I'm just saying he could have very easily been of use this season, but I mean, the problem with Bullet is that he has injury issues, so he's a bit injury prone, so obviously can't play I don't think he's yet to play a full season for Dinamo, but we'll see how he does at Standard Liège with Boško Šutalo.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, what do we expect from Dinamo this season? Is it another dominant performance?
I mean, I think this again, we'll get onto it when we're on the other sides. I think it's because with the greatest respect to Dinamo and to probably quite a lot of people who will watch / listen to this who are fans of Dinamo, they're not really the most interesting side to talk about because they ended the season very well. They have remained very good. They've not really, you mentioned sort of the pieces that have gone in and out, but if you're talking about just the standard of the side, they've not really lost anything. As the season went on, they only got better. So you would expect with a full preseason in behind him, that they're going to hit the ground running pretty well with it. I think, if you then sort of talk about the actual sort of league positions, if I was to bet points wise now, I think it was 82 last season. You would expect them to be more this time around. And I think you're probably looking at them hitting the 90-point mark. And that ultimately, if you're a side that isn't Dynamo that wants to challenge Dynamo, you always have to know you have to hit 85 points or more to have a real sustained challenge and or win. But I think that I think 90 points would be a pretty fair return for this side.
Yeah, it would be, but I what was I gonna mention? Oh yeah, Baturna, which we already mentioned. Dynamo obviously revolves around sales.
Mm-hmm.
They could keep Baturna, I think, unless a big offer comes in at the end of the window. But if they do get it into the Champions League, you don't need to sell him. You can play him for the 6 games up until the January transfer window starts, and then see if you can get more money. Which obviously, if he delivers in those 6 games, you can get probably 5 million more.
Yeah, exactly. There's no incentive for them to sell him at this point. And there's no incentive for assuming they reach Champions League group stage, which I think we probably expect they will. There'll be no economic incentive for them to sell him this side of January, or at least to rush sell at the end of the window, unless, like you say, someone's coming in with silly money.
Yeah. Who else? Oh, yeah, Marko Pasalic obviously has been linked with Dinamo since the beginning, since the end of last season. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's happened. I mean, Dinamo has sent offers to Rijeka, which have immediately been declined. So, but then again, it is Rijeka Dinamo who, transfer players amongst each other fairly often. I mean, we saw Piazza move and Rukavina being sent to Rijeka, just to keep to keep the relationship happy, especially after last season with what happened around this time with Sopic and Jakirovic.
And again, sort of similarly to what we said about Paturna, Rijeka don't have any pressure whatsoever to make a move at this point. They may well by the end of the window, but right now he's best served being there, playing, and trying to contribute to them to get into a group stage.
And well, yeah, they have a pretty big chance of going into a league phase, especially if they beat Corvinul tonight. Then you have Sheriff, then you have most likely Sheriff coming up in the third qualifying round of the Europa League. And if you lose that, then you're in the playoff, which you're not going to be seeded for. So that's a bit. But I think it's still better to be in the third round of the Europa League, and then if you go through, you're obviously at least guaranteed the Conference League phase.
And plus, I mean, again, there'd be favourites against Sheriff.
Yeah. So I don't see an incentive for Pasalic to leave. Obviously, the incentive is money and possibly Champions League football. But if you can, profile yourself out at Rijeka and even most likely be in Europe, you have a pretty big stage where you can, get yourselves a bigger move than Dinamo per se.
Yeah, and so like you said, if it depends on the Baturina move, and then Dinamo have a lot more money, you can ask them for a bit more money yourself. For Pasalic. So yeah, there's no incentive for them to do anything at this point.
Yeah, and there have been no talks about Fruk, which I'm more surprised by because he last season was amazing. But speaking of Rijeka, let's go on to them.
Yeah.
So they've only brought in 3 players, which are Rukavina, Posavec, Majstorovic, which I mean fairly okay business. Obviously getting Rukavina as part of the deal for selling Piazza, Posavec being there and battling for the starting goalkeeper place with Zlomislic, and Majstorovic, who's just brought in because they've lost Mitrovic and who else? Another. And Kresic.
Yeah,
Kresic was also lost, so you need that depth in defense.
Yeah, they're not. They are worse off than last season.
Yeah,
not much.
I mean, not much, but Piazza is a pretty big player, so
yeah, I think there's a big the big question that's going to hang around Rijeka at the start of the season is around Zelko Stopic's man management, in terms of how do you get this team off the ground? Because when we were covering the run-in, they did everything they could. There was absolutely no lack of effort, no shame in how they lost the title to Dinamo, but you still kind of have to say you were 2 weeks out from winning the title and didn't. So that's, I think that's a real challenge. There's not too many managers who come across that sort of challenge because it is such a late season, it's such a big psychological impact to a player, to a community of the team itself as well, that you've got to be really adept at that to be able to get them coming into this season with a completely refreshed mindset.
Yeah.
Particularly when you have, let's say, Labrovic, Piazza, who've then taken that moment to say, right, okay, didn't do anything, I'm off.
Yeah.
If you have iffy results at the start of the season, there might be one later this evening. We don't know.
We'll find out.
Yeah, but that would be when the worries would really start to set in.
Yeah.
So I think the important thing for Rijeka this season, beyond anything, is just this first couple of weeks. Just get the results you expect to get. Obviously they start off against Lokomotiva. It's an awkward opening game, at least of the sides who are playing in Europe this week. It's the most awkward one. Even though again, I don't think Lokomotiva are what they were last season. Get a result there. Get a result. Get past Corvinal, and you start to get a little bit of momentum going again. And that's really all this season's got to be about, is just making those sort of almost baby steps back up to where they were.
Yeah. And to quickly mention, I said Sheriff, but Elfsborg took a lead in the second leg inside 1 minute, so it's now 2-0 in aggregate for Elfsborg. So yeah,
that's fine. They're having a bad season.
Yeah, so that's good, unless Sheriff obviously comes back. But we'll see. I mean, transfers out, obviously, already mentioned Labrovic, Piazza, Kresic, Mitrovic, Juncai, who came in with nothing. I think he played like in a cup once or twice. That's it. Jan Sané, who was expected to,
and went to his dad's club.
Yeah,
we should say that Michigan Stars are owned by his dad.
Yeah, so all fair. It's all good. Jan Sané, obviously, I think some people expected more from him, but didn't really live up to it. Vega absolutely fell off last season and has come back to Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Pavlovic's contract ended, and I think he signed with Gorica, or is going to sign with Gorica.
Yeah.
Mirko Maric's loan ended, and Geisler has been sent on loan to Radomir, which I think we mentioned last time.
Yeah. I think we know that they are still a couple of players short. If they want to match last season, they need a striker.
Yeah.
I believe there's a guy called Dermich going about. Which
I would believe so, but I don't think Rijeka fans would, particularly love the move back.
Well, they might not, but
maybe after a few goals.
Sense.
Yeah,
it makes sense. He scored so many, and the options at the club now they don't score many. Let's be honest. They've got such an excellent side behind that front. Okay, Maric didn't really work out. You saw flashes of it early on, but sort of by the end, Obregon was generally doing most of the work up front.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something they need there. Like you say, I mean, there's a couple of other bits and bobs where there's questions about, like say, the goalkeeping position, but that's more just a who rather than
just who.
rather than the quality as such. The defense is fine. Again, maybe it needs an other body just to deal with if they are doing you Thursday, Sunday.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with it. It is they can match the points total last season. And that's sort of how I've done my prep this time. It is sort of thinking about points totals. But it's a different story as to how they get there this season rather than last season. The story about how it was, they got to that sort of mid-70s and then just stopped. Here it's going to be a more normal season where they don't really entertain thoughts of winning the title, unfortunately for them. But it goes more consistently to a similar outcome.
Yeah, it's unrealistic to expect Rijeka to try and do it again, especially with the transfers they had out, Labrovic and Piazza, too. Very big, even though Labrovic wasn't great at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Labrovic wasn't great, and they've not exactly got a bad replacement for Piazza in Rukavina, particularly because you probably look at last season in terms of Piazza staying fit the whole season and think, well, actually, that's very much the exception to the rule for him.
That's the win.
Yeah.
But Rukavina, we'll see how he does. He's a good player, but we'll just see. It really depends if he can, if Sopic can use him right. By the way, Osijek has taken the lead against Levadia in the second leg, so I think that's done.
Yeah, I mean it already was, but
it already was. But yeah, Mira's got an assist. Just continuing. But I mean, yeah. Honestly, we'll see. I don't know what to expect from Rijeka. We'll see when we get to the predictions to be more on the nose. But let's get to Hajduk, who have brought in a few players. And by a few, I mean Ivan Rakitic, Perisic, obviously fully signing for the club, and Sanyang.
Yeah. I feel like this is the one where we'll probably have the biggest disagreement between the two of us.
Okay, I mean, let's see you start off.
Okay. I'm not a Gattuso fan. I mean, obviously he played for Rangers, so automatically I'm not a Gattuso fan. But just in general, I'm not a Gattuso fan of. I think comparison will make, because I see sort of based on this season, you will probably look at Hajduk and Osijek as the other two, with Dinamo and Rijeka having sort of the more known qualities. Hajduk and Osijek slightly less so. You look at what Osijek have put in place, and you've got Motto. They've identified how they want to play. They brought in Copatelli and signed around that, which is the way to do it for me. For Hajduk, you've had to react to how last season went, which obviously we'll mention in a sec. You brought in your new sporting director in Kalinic, which it's fine to have a new person in there. That's not necessarily a problem. But as you sort of indicated last week, having that new person in there has kind of also ripped up some of the network and whatnot that they actually had within the club there for their recruitment to work as effectively as it has in the past. Not that it was necessarily that effective, but and then you bring in Gattuso, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with Gattuso. But if you're comparing, if you look at Gattuso's record and you're looking at it critically, you look at the jobs where it hasn't worked for him at all. Which are his early ones, Sion, Palermo, or FI. And each of those ones, and this is a great thing for a manager to have, you can come out of it and say, oh, actually, I've got quite a good excuse as to why things didn't work out, because there was this going on at the club, there was that going on at the club. There was upheaval. Which goes into AC Milan's kids, gets the main job as let's be honest, the cheap option, which generally is when you are promoting from within.
Yeah.
He does okay.
I mean, for that side, I mean, that Milan side is just awful. That side was just. I remember watching Serie A back then as a I mean, I can call myself a child back then, which I was. The team just wasn't good.
Yeah, he goes to Napoli, and again he does okay.
Won a
But
trophy.
it won the Coppa Italia
Yeah,
during COVID. But then the guy who takes over from you then leads them to the title, and very impressively so. So that's immediately looking to me like you not necessarily got the best out of the side. Valencia, again, that's probably one way he can say there's stuff at the club. There's a bit of an excuse there. Marseille just doesn't do very well, and now he's at Hajduk. So he's gotten that Milan job and gradually gone down in the status of the club he's taken over from there. So immediately, I'm not. That's a little bit of a red flag to me. But I think secondly, you look at it from a tactical perspective as well. And for the past maybe 15 years or so, you look at international tournaments and they've actually been a bit behind the times in terms of how the tactical evolution of the game goes on.
yeah. I mean, that's simply because you do not have the time to set everybody up.
But I think the weird thing about Euro 2024 was actually it was maybe a little bit ahead because you split your sides really into three types. One which had these kind of newer, younger coaches who were very attacking, and not necessarily have come on from within football. But obviously Spain as wins, but also Albania, Georgia, and a couple of others within there. You had your sides who were very, very structured. Slovenia being one of them, Croatia being one of them as well. And then you had these sort of middling sides. And the sides people remember are the sides on both extremes. And where the coaches have sort of come up and they're watching Guardiola, they're watching Klopp, they're watching people who have looked at the game differently. I still think there is, the best managers in football will always be the arch pragmatists, your Fergusons, your Ancelottis. There will always be a place for that. But for the next 3-4 years of football, where it's probably going, it's going towards these real dogmatists.
Yeah.
And that's not just the guys who were there at Euro 2024, De Zerbi, shout out just because I know him, Steve Grieve at SJK Sanayoki in the Vikasliga, who's playing stuff positionless. And where's Gattuso in that sort of spectrum? Well, he's kind of in the middle.
Yeah, in the middle.
And it feels a little bit to me, we'll prove me wrong, like he's going to be a little bit of a dinosaur in that regard. And I just don't think there's enough there to convince me that he would be a success at this. Be that his CV, be that the football he plays, be that just the general situation of the club as well. So I think of the big four, Hajduk are the ones who are most vulnerable to being a little bit detached, even though we can say they've got some incredible players, and even though like you say, they seem to be doing quite a bit of running last week, against Torshavn.
Yeah, it's one game.
Yeah, with 30 with guys in the mid-30s and Livira up front who consistently doesn't stay fit for a season, you're not going to be able to do that. And the weaknesses at the end of the day that we all know about Hajduk are all still there. There's no one's looking at the Hajduk squad thinking, okay, how are we going to unlock this? No, I think everyone in the league who's playing them 4 times a season will know probably by the second time
they have a general idea
how to do it. And for me, that's problematic.
Yeah, so I mean, to shortly mention, I was my main talking point for the upcoming season is Rakitic and how I prefer more Gattuso as our manager than Ivan Juric, for example. If Ivan Juric came in and we still brought in Rakitic, I don't know how this side would have looked. With 3 at the back, I do not know how Rakitic would have even played, even off the bench.
Mhm.
So I'm glad Gattuso is in here because that just means Rakitic is gonna do his job. Everybody else is gonna run for him, obviously, because he is 35, 36 actually. Perisic is 35, but Rakitic is the player that we missed in the midfield. Last season we obviously didn't have any runs
Mhm.
and behind, but when we had them, we had nobody to distribute the balls to them. You know, the guy that's gonna make the through ball over the defense, through the defense. Krovinovic isn't that type of player. Sigur is obviously not that type of player. Pukstas is just the fox in the box, just make runs,
Mhm.
being behind Livaya and do your job. So Rakitic, I think, is probably the best midfielder that we could have gotten in. He is 36, but he still has the quality. It's just how much of that quality can he show this season? What percentage is he going to be? If he's at 50%, not good enough. If he's at 70, 80% of what he can do, then I think that's great for Hajduk. And I think
Yeah.
you will probably see that if he is at 70 or 80, you will easily see that. Obviously, a lot lies on Pukstas, who is most likely going to get sold. It's just a matter of when, really. And then the midfield is most likely. It also depends who's going to get dropped for Rakitic. If Rakitic, when Rakitic gets into form, it can actually play a good amount of minutes, 60 above. So do you drop Krovinovic? Do you drop? You're not gonna drop Sigur, I think, because Sigur is the only, unless we bring in the defensive midfielder, which Hajduk desperately needs because
Mhm.
Rapper is still injured, and when he comes back, God knows in
Yeah.
what shape he will be. So you need somebody physical that can do the dirty work, which Sigur can do, but not as good enough as he should. If he,
Mhm.
especially if you have Rakitic and Krovinovic in that same midfield.
Yeah, and I think it's not necessarily a who's going to be dropped; it's a who's going to drop back.
Yeah,
And that was the big problem last season. You look at, and sort of one of the things we indicated at the start of this was sort of how different things are to 12 months ago. You look at 12 months ago, Hajduk had everything there to really push for the start, and it felt like 23, 24 would be their season. With Leka, with Levaya, with the business that they've done, it felt they built this boat on an ocean of success and went all season managing to avoid getting wet. And that's not what this side is. Like I say, there's just all the questions that we had 4 months ago about them when they were doing really badly under
yeah,
Croglan are still there. It's like I say, who's doing the covering, who's doing the dirty work in the midfield. I think Pukstas probably will develop, probably somewhere else, into a player who will do a lot of dirty work.
yeah.
But he's too important for what he does here to be developed into that player. Krovinovic had to be dropped back and not be as effective for a long time last season because of it. You would think if anyone knows what a good defensive midfielder looks like, it's probably going to be Gattuso.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's just I don't trust them to stay fit. I don't trust
You
them
don't
not
trust them.
to outrun. I don't trust Gattuso based on his
CV.
CV, and I don't trust that midfield not to be pushed about.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
don't trust that
I,
they all
I,
know what
I am
they're
a
doing.
bit subjective here, so I'm trying to stay out of it as much as possible.
No, feel free to shout at me.
Oh no, I mean that's all for those are all things that I've had in my mind, but I tend to go onto the positive side. Just a little bit. I'm still like I'm not expecting anything because last season as a Hajduk fan absolutely drained the living hell out of me, especially that poor run of games. Just it was the football depression, I think, for me for the first time ever in that kind of way, because you get so much hope in the first part of the season. Second part of the season you kind of fall in the start, then you still have a chance, and then it's just all down.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's absolutely dream. So I'm not expecting us to fight for the title. I don't think anybody's gonna fight for the title, really. I think Dinamo is very easily gonna get to it this season. I hope not, but currently I do not see anything else. Hopefully I'm wrong. But yeah, let's get to the transfers out because we haven't mentioned them. They have let go of Ferro, whose contract ended, Blaž Lauš, Mikanovic, who's joined Gorica, Sentic, who's gone to Hungary, Filip Čujic joined Lokomotiva, Juric Petrašilo, Krolo, Čubalic went to Slam Belupo, and Ojija Foy, obviously, and Kalinic retired.
Yeah, and then there's also Beno, who we're expecting to go.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised he's
And
not gone already. Diaku as well. Yeah. Which I'm slightly surprised that. I mean, both of them have something to offer. In respect that Beno, was never a good defensive player, but he always did something when he was on the pitch. And Diaku, you still don't have someone who can fill in when Levaya's injured, unless Trakowski is just going to be very good again, just out of nowhere randomly. But yeah.
I mean, what is there to mention about? I mean, they've lost a bit of depth. It's not a lot, but I think you have some decent young players have shown up. Durdov can obviously play on the wing. I think he's shown that he can do something. Tsapan, I think, if he continues this kind of form that he showed against Torshavn in the first game, he can continue playing like that. He can certainly be in the rotation in the midfield. Very good option to have, a left-footed midfielder, and especially how he takes dead ball situations. So we'll see. I'm not that hopeful, but I do think Hajduk will have a okay season. I don't think it'll be anything bad. We won't have another historic bad run, which hasn't happened in 40 years, but hopefully we don't replicate that.
I mean, again, I've sort of said points. I mean, points totals for the other two, so we'll do it with these as well. It was 68 points last year. I don't see them beating that, but I don't think they'll be miles off it. I think maybe 65.
Okay.
Which is still a decent gap back from Rijeka. But I think that's just where they are at the moment. If we could come into this, a month later, and we see that actually they clearly do know what they're doing. They've had a plan, and it just didn't look obvious from the offset.
Yeah.
Then certainly revise that upwards. But yeah, they don't yet.
Yeah, not yet. Let's get to Osijek, who have obviously done a fair bit of business, which I think we mentioned last week. They brought in Luka Jelnic from Varaždin, Marko Solda already mentioned, Risuenio Kemal Ademi, Nikola Chalin obviously on loan. Duarte has been signed on a full transfer. Pedro Lima came on loan from Palmeiras, and that's pretty much it. Yeah. For the transfers in. To quickly mention the transfers out, which not really that important. Slavko Bralic left, Evangelu, which I think we saw just a couple of times. Šime Gržan, Rico Petkovic are still without a club. Everybody else is not really important since they didn't play much for the club. Dambraev, obviously, his loan ended. Almashi, Chokai. Chokai was, his loan ended. Osijek do not have the money to sign him on a full transfer, so nothing surprising.
No. I mean, let's see. Chokai's, of those that have gone, Chokai's the only real loss.
Yeah.
For them from
first team. And he was still on a loan, so he was expected loss.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, okay, they've signed players from around the place. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, around the place.
Around the place. But the players who you go and look at the video on them and they look good. Like we mentioned last week, Kemal does look good. Kemal Ademi, if you can get him back to where he was, and there are reasons as to why he hasn't played as well as he had previously the past couple of years, then you've got someone who can really, really give a lot at this level.
Yeah.
Chavner is a top goalkeeper. He, as we saw last week, does not quite have the consistency there yet. And he needs to develop that this season.
Yeah.
And I think obviously that's why he's at Osijek, because there's going to be the hope that they will be playing stronger opposition in Europe than he could be exposed to week in week out at Lokomotiva.
Yeah, I think it's also you kind of have more pressure at Osijek. At Lokomotiva, there's really no pressure.
Yeah, exactly. There's still bits of players to go out who are clearly not welcome at the side anymore. Lovrich,
Yeah.
but I mean, not just him. There are a couple of others in there as well. But I mean, again, we hinted out last week. Having watched Copatelli's Primavera side, they're a very good, very fun attacking team.
Yeah.
And yeah, we saw that last week against Slovakia. Okay, not really much in terms of the competition. It's fair to say there, but absolutely did the job, killed it in one leg. Probably can rest a couple of players this week, and be ready full strength for the first league game on Sunday. You've got a really good base of the midfield in the Asmic. Jurisic really came on the second half of last season. You would expect if he carries on that level,
very good,
or is able to kick on it even a little bit more. They've got someone who will be one of the, if not the best player in his position in the league. And as long as they've got Mieres, they've got goals.
Yeah, you got to, as I said at the start of the episode, you just got to try everything to keep him. And I doubt that Boto's not already doing it, as previously mentioned it. Because if he's not, then Boto, what are you doing?
Yeah. But I mean, even if, let's say, they sell Mieres, you still got Matkovic, who looked good in the time we saw of him at the back end of last season. Okay, he's not going to be hitting the ground running and scoring 15, 20 goals in a season, because if he is, he's not going to be around this league very long. 18.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, he certainly showed enough to suggest he's already at a point where he can contribute from the bench. Like I say, Ademi will be able to contribute, I'm sure, as well. So they've got a really good attacking roster.
Yeah, very good.
And I think that is what we're going to see from Copatelli. I think we're going to see a side that's going to go for it a bit. And it'll be almost like watching, I was going to almost like watching Osijek from the start of last season, but hopefully like through the whole season, where it's just a ridiculous game after ridiculous game. You doubt when you bring up a youth coach, he's always going to be, sort of that pressure, that mental element, the additional responsibilities that you naturally have in terms of media and things like that. And, the things that aren't really about managing a football side. So they aren't really about coaching a football side, but they are about managing a football side. If that makes sense, he's going to have to deal with and learn to pick up and cope with from his own well-being perspective as much as anything. But this is a side we all know underperformed last year, big time.
Yeah,
and they weren't consistent through the spring, and they weren't consistent through the spring because Zoran Zekic was just chopping and changing and
everything,
doing weird things. And I think just a sane, normal season for them would have been better than they did. So I've no doubt, if talking about points perspective, it was 57 points last season. I have no doubt they will exceed that this season.
Yeah, same.
I
think they will.
The question is whether or not they will better Hajduk.
Okay. We'll get to the predictions. That's gonna be fun because I already see some changes in both of ours, which are gonna be disagreeable. But that's better because I think it would be very boring for us to have the same predictions.
Yeah,
obviously. All right, let's get to Lokomotiva, who obviously finished 5th last season, and I do not think they're going to be even close to that this season. They brought in Ilya Masic, Luka Dajcer. There's just some simple moves for and Filip Čujić. Brought obviously Karacic back in. Brought in Krolo from Hajduk, and are bringing, I think, Toni Silic from Hajduk as well, the goalkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
And Moreno Živković obviously on loan. This time he won't be needed at Dinamo because they have obviously strengthened that center back spot, so he will not be recalled as he was last season. And I mean, overall, it's an okay transfer window for Lokomotiva. The transfer window's out. You get some pretty good money for Šotiček and Čavlina, so and everybody else. You obviously lost Kalaica, Bartolec, Bubanja, Elezi, Mateo Maric, especially very very big player for your squad. You lost some key starters there, but you still got very good money.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. They've lost key players, but I mean, again, it's Lokomotiva. You know, they probably have a 12-year-old somewhere who's ready to step up. I mean, I think there's some good pickups in there. Grollo is a good pickup, definitely.
Yeah.
I think in sort of from the stuff here, sort of from within, I think they're quite high on him as to how he'll be able to do. We know, obviously, Spakai going through, Krivak going through, Fatai going through. I think the big loss is Šotiček, really, because he's actually in a role where they don't have someone where you can just say, right, you're automatically just going to step up into that role and do everything that he did.
Yeah, I think Stanjuga is going to pop into that position for Šotiček.
Yeah, but that's I think probably the concern for them is from an attacking perspective, is that really, you've got Gorichan, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Unless again, Duyachok's just going to defy age.
Yeah, could very well be. Wouldn't be surprised. It's Duyachok after all.
Yeah.
Frank Karadzic pickup is very good as well. He had a very good season, a very good half season at Trudeš. Just to show that he's still at the level, which is good.
And to be fair, Bartolec didn't have. It was okay. He was just all right. And obviously, the less said about Castrati, the better.
Yeah, let's not even mention Castrati because he barely played, and when he played, he was awful.
Yeah, the other obvious concern you have about them is in goal.
I mean, yeah, I think that's just Šubaric.
Yeah, who's fine, but again, he's fine and no more than that.
Yeah, he had a very good game against Osijek in the quarterfinal. Yeah, in the quarterfinals of the cup. Knocked themselves out. Basically, he knocked them out, but his saved the penalty against Mieres and many more. Big chances for Osijek, but we'll see if he can do that on a regular level, which I doubt he can. But he's still a good goalkeeper, so I think it's fine. It's not Chavlina level, but obviously I do not expect Lokomotiva to even be. They can be close to fifth, but probably like around sixth or seventh.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, probably quite similarly to last season. Well, so last season, obviously, we had sort of 3-4 sides quite close together in Lokomotiva, Varzin, Goetze, and by the end, Istra. I think probably we might see that quite similar this time around, but I don't think Lokomotiva would be at the top of that.
Yeah.
I think they'd be close to the bottom. I think probably looking seventh for them. I think there are definitely 3 worse sides than them.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think there's definitely 5 sides better than them.
Okay.
It's just where it's them and Varazin, as to where
land. Yeah, that 5th, 6th, or 7th spot, it's very hard to get nailed on.
Yeah.
It's that anything can happen there. It can be within 2 points, it can be within 15. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Who's next? Next is Varazin. I like the signing of Thierry Nevers. Frane Maglica, obviously the right back from Posušje. A couple of pickups from Macedonia, which I think we already mentioned last week, and picked up Tomislav Duvnjak and Tepšić. I mean, it's fine. Not much to say.
No, I mean, see, we mentioned the outs last time. We already mentioned Jelenic, but obviously Postonski, the one who was more important in terms of how they played. In terms of driving them forward. And that's the big question for them in terms of replacing that energy and that ability to put it in the net from 30 yards as well. Which Duvnjak isn't a direct replacement for.
No.
But he's also really kind of the midfield replacement they've brought in. So there's going to have to be a bit of a change in maybe not shape, but approach
Yeah.
from them. From two perspectives, one, obviously they lost that in the centre, but also the start of last season with Brodic there playing for them, and obviously they don't have him. They weren't as good in the spring as they were in the autumn.
Yeah.
Dabro came in, and we know he can do it at this level, but just it's like Sideshow Bob and the Rakes for the second half of last season.
Yeah.
In terms of his performances, they're just. I think the problem with Vara's thing is you don't really know what they're there for. Not necessarily there for producing great young players. Although they have had that couple of transfers over the past 12 months in Jelic and Teklic. They're not challenging for Europe. They're just kind of there.
Yeah.
And when I put out my wild predictions yesterday, someone did come in and said, "What, Vara's team for 4th, 5th?" I'm like, no. If they get Dabro firing, they can be 5th.
Yeah, I think it depends a lot on Dabro, because if he can get into that form he was before in the HNL, I mean, yeah, he's just Brodic but Dabro.
Yeah, and they are very solid. There's no doubt. Zelenica is if you were rating the best goalkeepers in the league, Zelenica is certainly near the top.
Yeah, I think where would I place him? So you have Chavlina, Lucic, Nevistic. Yeah, maybe 4th. Yeah, 4th,
Yeah.
5th. They're with Banic.
Yeah, he's a great keeper.
Yeah.
And they are, I say, good at the back. Tepsic is brought in from Vostovac, picking their bones. Is a good pickup from the Super League, from a good development club. They are sort of developing through the midfield. Having just said they're not really on young players. You look at the midfield that they have: Belshar, Lucevic, Duvniak, all under 23. So there's and Mitrovic as well.
And Belsa.
Yes. I didn't say Belsa. Did I? Oh, sorry. If I didn't, I meant
to. I think you. Maybe you did. I just mentioned Belsa because I expected to have a good season.
Yeah, it's whether or not they've got that type of player that can replace the energy of Postonski. It's whether or not they've got the goals in them. They've got the players to have goals in them.
The goals, they do.
That's mentioned Dabro. Drozek as well. We've seen him have exceptional periods of form in the past. Like you mentioned, Never coming in. I'm sure you probably know more about him than me, because
very fast.
Yeah. And we've seen very fast West Ham products in the past. Whose name I have completely forgotten.
He played for Slaven.
He played for Slaven. He played for Mladost Boyka and
Nongo. Was it Nongo?
No,
No, it wasn't.
This is going to annoy me. Matthias Fanimo.
Yeah, Fanimo. Yeah, I've played for Sarajevo too. Yeah.
Yes, and he was fine. Again, at this level, so they've got players who can produce it. It's just they need to adapt a little bit compared to last season to get them to produce.
Yeah.
And again, they may be a side who they've not got the kindest first couple of games.
No,
if I remember rightly.
They have Gorica in the first leg.
So they've got Gorica away, then Rijeka, then Hajduk.
Yeah.
So
not easy.
Yeah, they could be 3 games in and only on 1 point. And at that point, we start to look, okay, how are they going to do? They need their mix and their chemistry to sort itself out reasonably quickly, because after Hajduk, then it's Slaven, Lokomotiva, Šibenik, Istra. Your 4 winnable games. You need to be, completely at 100% for that stretch.
Yeah. I think Varadin is gonna be just fine.
Yeah.
They have the, I don't think Dabra is gonna be not scoring. I think he have at least an average season of like 7 goals, which I
Yeah.
think is enough for Varadin to be into that fifth to seventh spot.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I do. Again, sort of like the locomotive. There's definitely 3 sides worse than them.
Yeah, very definitely.
Yeah.
Should we get to one of
To
them?
one of them. Yeah.
Gorica, obvious. Yeah, I mean the transfer window. They've done business. Yeah, the fair play to them. They've done business. They've brought in Martin Slogar, Mikanovic from Hajduk, which is probably their main pickup. Marco Kolar from Maribor, and free loan transfers from Dinamo, Ante Sushak, Toni Majic, and Vito Čajic. Which, I mean, they've done business and they've sold. They've gotten rid of Mitrovic for 500,000 to Fortuna Sittard. Mrzljak, a very good player, obviously last season. Vojnovic has left them for Azerbaijan, and Timov Daj and Sven Blumel obviously went on a free because their contracts expired.
Yeah. I mean, Mitrovic is one of those players who I think was always better on paper than he was on the pitch. You know, I always rated him quite highly, but he never really kicked on.
Yeah.
You know, there were points where I think he was, when he was 21, where he went on quite a good run of form, and you're like, oh, okay, you can definitely get beyond this level, and he never really did.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to say it was probably the right time for that particular relationship to be over. But this, I mean, this isn't a great side. You know, like you say, Mikanovic is probably the biggest get. Majic, who's coming from Dinamo, you know, I think he's quite well regarded, but I don't see this side as having any goals in them, which is it's one of the points of winning football games is scoring goals.
It's gonna depend a lot on either Kolar or Mate Juric. I think the two of them are probably gonna be fighting for that spot.
Kolar is no.
Yeah, I know.
Kolar having
I know.
watched the Fluminense no.
we mentioned them last time. Not that great.
Yeah,
but it's gonna be between him and Mate Juric. Obviously, Mate Juric not that big of a goal scoring threat, unless you're Dinamo or Hajduk.
No, yeah, and okay, you got Majstorovic who will get you. You know, you just put him in front of a penalty and he will score it. That's what he does. You've got this sort of interest in terms of last year. Their season fell off when they lost Ndoket.
Yeah, no, I was gonna mention that it really depends a lot on how he comes back because it's a big injury. He's been out for almost a year.
Yeah, so if he's, it will take him time to come back. That's only fair to expect that. If he's able to have the same impact he did, or at least if he's able to have the same impact that his absence did, then that's a big plus for Gorica. But I mean, this isn't a very good side. I think if you're Basir and you're looking around the dressing room, you'd be you'd be calling your agent.
Get me the hell out of here.
Yeah, because he's the only real recognized midfielder there.
Yeah.
And I mean, even at the back, again, it's players who've been there a while who haven't really kicked on. Similar to what we say about Mitrovic. You go back 2-3 years, people at Gorica will be telling you Chris Manic is going to move on. He's going to make millions. He's going to
but he had interest from Dinamo, Hajduk, and Osijek, and he had interest from everywhere. But
he has
last season he was average, not very good.
And at the end of the day, so much of them, if you talk about who their two biggest players are going to be this season, I think we'll probably both agree on this. In Ndoket for the reasons we just mentioned, and Ivan Banic. And Banic is just a weird case in so much as it just seems to be the more you shoot at him, the better he is.
Yeah.
But if, Gorica are actually having a good game and he's only having to deal with 1 or 2 shots, they're probably going to go in. Which is not ideal. That you kind of have to be not very good to get the best out of your goalkeeper. But that's where they are now. Last season, obviously, they were in that 5th to 8th, as it was last term, but they were there because they were very good at the start of the season.
Yeah.
And then fell off appallingly. And I don't see them having a very good start to the season.
Yeah, neither do I. I think it's gonna take them a lot of time to probably get on their feet, and that's mainly because I'm a big fan of Ndokit, and I think it depends a lot on him, unless somebody else steps up. But I do not know who, except for Pushir, maybe.
Yeah, but even then, Push is not really an attacking player.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah, so probably what they have to be reliant upon is set pieces.
Yeah, probably.
And I think this is probably one for at some point where we need a feature. If we were to do a swap between a swap deal between each HNL side, I think you would say someone from Goritza to get back Lovric. And
I mean, yeah. I mean, the problem with Lovric is I don't think he's. I think he wants too much money. I think he probably that contract from Osijek. He's like, give me something close to this at least, and nobody in the HNL can give him that.
Yeah, but that's the sort of thing that Goritza need in terms of not even
they need
a goal scorer, just a disruptor.
Yeah. I think it would be smart for him to move back, but I don't think he will. I think money will definitely get in the way of that move.
Yeah, agreed.
Let's get to Istra, who I think will have a good season, and they obviously brought in Georgi Gagua, Jaganjac on a full transfer from Adana, Ferro and Keller, and today they signed the. Okay, let me remind myself of the name. The guy from Mauritania.
Yes, Lekuri.
Yeah, Beat Lekuri. Yeah,
Beat Lekuri. I mean, I will be honest. I'm aware of lots of things. I'm not massively aware of Mauritanian domestic football.
Neither am I, but he is the captain of the under-20s of Mauritania.
Yeah,
so
he's played. He's played in AFCON before, so that's a start. And I mean, let's be honest. Istra tend to be pretty good at this sort of thing. This sort of bit of scouting.
I just wonder who did they send to Mauritania.
Someone from Alaves. Let's be honest.
Yeah, probably.
But I think there's more a chance of it working than it not working. Whether it's a working straight away, I don't know. But it's the sort of move that it's coming from a weird market that makes you raise your eyebrows a little bit. Sometimes you see these players who are signed direct from African football and thinking Ishak Rafiu at Maribor, and they come and they're just absolutely miles off it.
Yeah.
But I get the impression, I get the impression with terms of the players that Istra have found over the past couple of years that won't be the case here.
Yeah. They've obviously lost some players. They've lost Majstorovic, Mlinar, Hojbjerg, Nebla didn't really play for the club. Ekong and Devetak, who's both of them loads ended, and Devetak has been linked with Rijeka for a move because they do need a left back.
Yeah. I mean, I fully agree with you in terms of that this is a good team.
The only problem I have with Istra right now entering the season, they have a fair bit of injuries to Koski and somebody else. I forgot who I also in the defense. But that's eventually going to get sorted out. It's not anything serious from what I know. So,
yeah. I mean, Tranzani had a really good impact straight away. And I think for the time at which Tranzani was at the club, in the spring, Istra were at least the 5th best side in the league. In terms of the performances that they put out.
No, he absolutely sorted their defense out. The Istra was an absolute wall in the defense.
Yeah, they were a gang before and a wall after. Again, they got a nasty start to the season. They start off Dinamo away, then host Dordrecht, but then it's Rijeka and Hajduk. So
Yeah.
that's not ideal, but
So hopefully it doesn't happen the same time at the last season where you have a very rough start to the season where they had Lokomotiva, Dinamo, and Rijeka,
Mhm.
and then you start Karoglan after 3 games. So hopefully that doesn't happen to Tramezzani here.
I mean, I think that might be more a reflection on Krogland, to be fair.
With hindsight, probably.
Yeah. I think also I think this we talked about last season. Mikic didn't have a good season
No.
last season. If he's back to not even where he was the season previous, but sort of just to league average, Easter will be better, much better for it.
Yeah, because they underperformed last season. I think.
Yeah,
we can agree.
So there's a lot of reasons to be really optimistic about them.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're being picky, there are a couple of numbers and maybe a creative player short. But I think from what we saw at the end of last season, in terms of how Tramezzani got that front three working, really the only sort of question you come out of it with is, is Yagana's going to kick on? How does Gagua fit in? Now,
they have choices. The main
Yeah.
point, the main point, they have choices. So I think somebody's gonna pop up. Either that be a Ganyat, Filet, or Gagua.
Yeah, I mean, you have to mention last week, I'm a big Gagua fan.
Yeah.
But they've got two good options in each position up if you're playing a front three, which is more than most teams have. And they will be very solid,
especially
in
at their
centre.
level in the middle of the league.
Yeah. So I say I have them fifth. And I have them fifth, and sort of almost like Lokomotiva were last season, in respect that if a side above them is having a really bad year,
They can push. Yeah, they can push them.
Really push them and really push for fourth.
Yeah,
but they're solid. That's just what Tramezzani does. He has very solid sides. They hit teams fast. Gagua gives them, like I say, a nice tall option to have with good movement. We've seen from Philip. We've seen you can. There's so many reasons to be
and Fagol of all.
Yeah, as well. And there's if you're going to face, let's be honest, if you're going to face Hajduk and Rijeka, you want to face them when they're in the middle of the European qualifiers.
Yeah,
because you're probably going to get a rotated side, or you might get a tired side. And if Easter are going to be fast and vertical and physical, then they're going to be the sort of side who can really take advantage of that. If nothing else, no side is going to go to Pula and get an easy 3 points.
That hasn't. Yeah, if they can really do what we expect them to do, definitely fifth.
Yeah,
but yeah, let's get to one of my one of the teams I can very easily place last. Slime Belupa. They've done some business also today. They brought in the Kosovan striker. Let me remind myself.
There's Kamali
Ernest Kestai.
Kestai, that's it, Kestai.
Yeah,
from Phoenix. He's very
and Carlo
good.
Butic.
Kestai is really good.
Yeah, and Carlo Butic also from Italy.
Yes. But I don't think that really probably changes too much about where we predict.
Yeah, but didn't Kestai have a big injury?
Yes, he
did.
But I mean, when you bring in he's a kid, basically, then he's
still
the
young.
future. Yeah.
But they've obviously brought in Luka Lucic, Marko Leškovic, who kind of lovers will know, and Rijeka almost conceded right now. Lucas Fernandez de Pasos and Igor Lepinca from the lower tier sides in Croatia.
Mm-hmm.
Ivan Čubac from Hajduk, and everything else has just been promotions from the under 19 side. And sales they've had obviously Benedikt Mioc, Steful, Nongo, Jelic Balta. Actually, they signed Jelic Balta, right?
It was loan, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I think apparently not. I thought they signed him. Apparently not. They sold Lapinca, Mioc, Eskinja, Međimorec, Štefut. Very, important players for the squad, especially
Mhm.
Lapinca who and Mioc, who I rated a lot last season.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, there's bits and bobs that are there from last season, but I feel like we've said this past probably 2 seasons. Is you look at the squad and you're like, oh, this isn't
Yeah,
this could be trouble. And to be fair to them, they've always managed to find a way and to not really be in all that much trouble at all.
I mean
Uh,
last season didn't have to do much.
no, they didn't have to do much last season, to be fair, yeah. But you take a lot of physicality out of that side. Lepinita loved a yellow card.
Yep,
Miot for half a season was amazing.
very poor, and yeah, in the second part of the season, very poor.
And they need a couple of players to really come on this term. Akponu has to improve. Yeah, he was all right, but obviously I think we point out a couple of points during the spring. There were a couple of things he did that were really dumb.
Yeah,
And Muric.
yeah. If Moric can, start actually playing football,
Mhm.
then not Osijek, sorry, Slaven can really do damage.
Yeah, and because there are still decent players there. If you sort of are going into the deep stats from last year, Stakal looked, came out really well. Came out
Yeah, I
looking really
think
good from that.
Storka could very easily be picked up by any side and be a very good use player.
Mm.
Not first team player, but a good rotation player for
Yeah,
the Hajduk example. They need a backup striker.
yeah, but at the end of the day, he's got to have the supply, and I don't really
Yeah,
know where that comes from. And so we're making that comparison to the sides that are going to be above them. They're certainly worse at the back than Barazin, then Istra, then Lokomotiva, than maybe Goritza.
yeah,
But you sort of know that Savin can score. So it's quite hard. It's hard to place them. I think it's quite hard to place the bottom three
yeah.
this season so far.
It's yeah. I've been going around. Well, this makes sense, but this also makes sense.
Yeah,
Everything makes sense. Whatever, however you place it, it makes sense.
yeah. I think the reason to have faith in them is always just the precedent that they always do find a way. So
Yeah,
therefore, they must surely also find a way now. But that isn't necessarily very logical. And I think eventually, if you're going to be this side, as they are, as Goritza have been, where you are building your side to stay in the league, eventually you make enough mistakes for that to be a side that takes you out of the league.
yeah. Petrovic has also just given Rijeka the lead. So it's 1-0
Right.
to Rijeka. So currently we have, well, Osijek is obviously already proceeded through. The game has finished. So we have currently all three sides continuing through, which, great. No upsets for now.
Yeah.
It's a long way until the end for Rijeka and for Hajduk, who is obviously going to kick off in under an hour. But let's get to the promoted side. Šibenik. We already mentioned the moves last week, and nothing's changed, I think, if I'm correct. It's still Bakic, Barkovic, Santini, Falcao, and Druta. And they've sold Osmankovic, Pavicic. Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
But as I said at the start of the episode, maybe two? No. It was almost 2-0. Anyways, so as I said at the start of the episode, Šibenik really, I think, are going to do more business, but on the tail end when players realize, oh, well, Šibenik is the best move I got.
Yeah. And so I mentioned last week about Lucas Falcao. I think he's got a profile that has worked moving from Regional League to the HNL in the past. And obviously when they went down, it's obviously they didn't go down like Rudez.
No, it was
No one
very.
went
I
down like
mean,
Rudez.
no one. It took a very big comeback from Gorica to take them down.
Yeah, exactly. So they went down with a strong side. They had um, you know a tough season last season,
Yeah,
not necessarily in respect of how they played, but in respect of it went all the way, and they had to show a lot of character to be able to come back up. But there's a lot of players there who were, first of all, are recognisable from them being up last time, and who were decent in. I know last time they were in. I think they've added okay. They've got players I'm fans of. Ivan Bozic up front. Obviously, I
yeah,
really like him for, for a long time. Whether the question is whether they've got the quality to be consistently taking points, to be consistently taking 3 points, or whether they just do what they did 2 seasons ago and just draw every game for like the
or
first
that.
quarter.
That team has the quality to stay up. I think it hasn't changed that much from the team that was in the HNL 2 years ago.
Mhm.
There's still some key players there. I think Iker Pozo could have a very good season.
Agreed.
So there's good player Peric. I think I think you mentioned him. Very good defender, probably on the HNL level.
Mm-hmm.
The players they brought in, Bakic obviously played for Osijek, not that much, but still played for Osijek. So there's something there. So we'll see. It's the thing. He's obviously being brought in, I think, as a backup. If you need him,
Mm-hmm.
put him in. If you need a goal, and hope for the best.
Yeah, but there. I mean, again, I think if you're looking at this, the three sides we think are going to be in trouble, which Stubenitk are one, and they're one by default because they're the side that's come up. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Gorica and Savin. Stubenit's squad on paper is probably the best of the three as a whole. Obviously, Gorica has a couple of exceptional players. This year, for example, Savin has some clear players who can perform a bit better than they did last season, who can contribute a lot more than they did last season. Really, we're going to see on week 2 because it's Stubenitk hosting Savin Bluebird, and that is going to decide if they get 3 points there and they do it fairly easy. Then I think we probably know we're looking at it being Savin or Gorica rather than, and Stubenitk should be looking to be closer to the likes of Varazine and so on and so forth.
yeah.
I think they should be looking for that anyway. Like I said, the players that went down with them that have come back better. They come back more experienced. As you say, I agree. Puzzle, I think, can have a good season this time around. They've got options up front. As you mentioned, Santini, Bozic has pace. Falcao will add a little bit of something in behind as well if they need players to be running off. So they've got more options certainly than Goretz to do up top. And for Savin, sort of my concern was that creative element. Well, again, Stubenitk probably have them on the midfield.
Yeah.
So I think that's you have to consider them for relegation just because they came up. But I don't think if I was having them as the three I think will be at the bottom, I would be having them as 8th at this point.
Okay. Should we get to our exact predictions? Since we have essentially covered everybody. You have already mentioned some, but who are you placing to go down?
I'm gonna say Slaven Bilbao.
Is that is that why the dog is barking?
Yeah, he's very, very
Sadly, I'll have to agree. It's really between Slaven and Gorica for me. I'm putting Šibenik at 9th.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, they're 9th for me. Whatever it is, it's just for me. It's either Slaven or Gorica finishing 10th, and one of them is gonna be 8th. But I do think Slaven is also gonna go down, and Gorica is gonna be 8th. Šibenik 9th. They have the quality, but I think they'll probably just have a little bit dip of form either at the start or at the end or in the middle.
Yeah.
As for Gorica, I'm putting them eighth just because anything of this can any one of these three can be in any order really. So
Yeah. I mean,
either
I would be having Garza Knives, as mentioned, Sibnik eighth. But like you're
eighth,
saying,
yeah,
you do kind of get the feeling that they're close, or at least you get the feeling that Garza and Seven are so far off the packer size that will be directly above them that they have to be
yeah,
in that conversation.
yeah,
But you don't necessarily. It's quite hard to tell exactly where they land in that particular conversation, if that makes sense.
yeah. Even though it feels stupid to put Slaven with Moric and Sturkalin, but if Moric doesn't get going, then nobody else is gonna get going because
Exactly.
I don't see anybody in that midfield creating something for Sturkal except for Moric, but he obviously didn't show much in the last 6 months.
Yeah, and that's ultimately that's all we can go off. Is that because he's just needed time to adapt? Is that because he came into a side that
Yeah,
weren't in general? Because obviously,
and
that's when off.
yeah, and I also don't really trust the manager.
Yeah,
Manager, what?
We can say that about a few sides. To be fair,
Yeah, but Ivan Radich obviously hasn't had much experience before.
No.
This is his real first job, and I just don't trust him. So I don't think he'll get sacked, and then they'll probably try to get somebody else. Then if that works out, it works out, but I don't see it right now. But the story right now before the season and in a month's time when the transfer window closes, it's probably going to be completely different.
Yeah, I think that's it. If the difference between Slaven Blipo and Goretz for me is you look at Goretz and you can see them grinding out draws.
Yeah,
because they do have much more solidity than Slaven Blipo do. Whereas with Slaven, you can't really say because you've obviously taken Lebanese out the side now, and you've lost a bit of bite in midfield for that.
you lost a lot.
Yeah, you've lost a lot. They were a lot of yellow cards.
Yeah,
but if you need a break, that breaks up play. It
yeah.
imposes yourself on sides. It makes things uncomfortable, and there's a bit less of that. As mentioned, they're going to be reliant on Akponu for that, who showed in the tackle at times last year he didn't have the best judgment, and he would go in a bit too strong.
No.
So yeah, I think maybe what worked last season might leave them with 10 men this time around.
We'll see. So 7th, who do you have?
7th. So for 7th to 5th, I would go Lokomotiva 7th, Varazine 6th, Easter 5th.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm just putting Varazine 6th just because I trust Dabro to have a good season.
I'm putting them 6th because I can see Easter being 5th. I can see Lokomotiva being 7th, and that's a position that's fair for them. They're not better than Easter, and there's too many moving parts, too many unreliabilities at Lokomotiva in terms of what's changed to have too much faith in them. But they're too good to be near the bottom 3.
No, again, I think this could be close. I can see Lokomotiva being 6th and Varazin being 7th, but Istra being maybe 6th and then Varazin jumping up. But I trust Istra to again have a very good season, and as you said, maybe push on if somebody else in the top 4 just really has a bad season.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And by top 4, top 4 excluding Dinamo.
Okay, so first then, for the top 4, Dinamo, Rijeka, Osijek, Hajduk.
Oh, so Hajduk's winning the league.
I was not going in that.
I know. I'm aware. I hardly doubt that after all the Gattuso, I don't like him. The old house, yeah, they're gonna win the league.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have I really haven't decided should I put Osijek or Rijeka fourth, because I trust Osijek, but then again, it's really hard for me to put my cards against Rijeka after last season, because if Stoppage can get them going again, very easily can happen. But I trust Osijek more, so I'll go Rijeka fourth, Osijek third, Hajduk second. I think eventually they will pick up, but not close to Dinamo. I think it's gonna be more than 10 points the difference. And I mean, first Dinamo, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's predictable, isn't it? So see you in May, guys.
Yeah, that. I mean, if you came in thinking that any one of us is gonna be like, oh yeah, Osijek, Hajduk, Rijeka is winning the league, no.
I mean, if you were to try to make an argument that Dinamo weren't going to win the league, you would be needing to make an argument that one of those three sides is going to take a big step forward.
Yeah.
Because Dinamo aren't going to be taking a big step back. That's ultimately, but you've got to be getting 85 points if you want to win a title. And that's a big leap for all of them. Rijeka, we know, are a little bit worse off and will be a little bit more frail mentally. The side who have the most, who come into the season with the most potential is probably Osijek.
Yeah,
because
Osijek.
we know they were pants last season, and we know that a lot of the reasons behind that have actually already been corrected. But it's still a big leap to expect to use it. But if they do use everything right, then absolutely they could be second and give Dinamo a race.
Yeah.
But you're asking a lot of things to go right there.
Yeah. And also a big one of the main things for me, for example, why did I put Rijeka fourth? They're probably going to be in Europe. If they enter the Europa League, they're going to have 8 games. If they enter the Conference League, they're just going to have the 6th, which won't change anything for them. From you're not going to have to play in January 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is also going to be very fun for me. Which you're going to have European football on for Dinamo, most 100%. Because they're going to have 8 games nonetheless, and they're going to be playing in January, which is going to be fun because the league is probably going to be on the winter break when they're going to be playing either Champions League or Europa League phase, like their last match during the winter break.
Yeah, I mean, for not just Croatian clubs, I mean, obviously there's others.
Yeah, for many more.
That's going to be quite a big question as to playing games in January. There's going to be have to be some quite creative scheduling from UEFA there to work things out properly. Because as it is, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for a few teams. But on top of that, they get those extra responsibilities, but they also will get about 10 million quid.
Yeah.
So that's a big start to help add that depth. What business they can do late in the window is going to be another question. But see, this 1st of August, we're recording this. 1st of September, if we were recording then, I don't know what day of the week that is, or if that's even the transfer deadline.
It's gonna be a Sunday.
Okay, so deadline will be the 2nd then, probably.
Yeah.
Whether these sides are able to have the money to look different, or to need the money so look different, is going to be a big factor as to who is leading the chasing pack.
Yeah.
Because Hajduk, Osijek, Rijeka, all of them can reach group stage.
Yeah, all of them can, and Rijeka is most likely going to reach it. Hajduk might reach it, and Osijek unlikely, but depends on the draw again.
Yeah,
which is going to be in the 4 days' time. So we'll see the probable opponents in the playoff if the teams do go through.
Yeah, I mean they've got as right now as much chance as anyone.
Yeah,
the through it's about as much as we can ask for. Although I have forgotten who they're due to play in the next round, so that's
Osijek.
Yeah.
Isn't it Duck?
Yes,
from Slovakia.
Yeah.
But has their match finished, or are they still playing?
I
No, they're about to play. Actually, no, not Dak. Zhire from
Zhire.
Azerbaijan, because they beat them 4-0.
Yes, okay, fair enough. It's
Okay.
probably them, unless we're getting a Milan Deportivo La Coruña situation here.
Yeah.
Um,
I expect Hajduk to make us step forward. Well, step forward in Europe. I
Mhm.
do expect us to get into Europe, and that is, I don't think we're gonna be able to cope with playing midweek games and then weekends in the league. I,
Yeah, I mean,
I,
asking 36-year-olds to play
I,
Thursday, Sunday is a lot.
well, it's only two, thankfully.
Yeah, but I mean, even Levaia just having that sort of game load on him isn't gonna be too helpful.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Hopefully we bring in a good second striker so Levi can rest a bit if that does happen. But again,
You
it
have been
depends on
trying
a
that for
draw.
3 years and not managed
Yeah,
it.
but it depends on a draw, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Anything else? Oh yeah, my second rant. Oh,
Oh
Avi,
yes.
I completely forgot.
I assumed it was going to be about Hajduk, so
No. It isn't. So it's not really that important to the HNL season, but it's very stupid for. It's a very stupid thing from the HNL and from just the social media and just to get
oh,
media
I think
attention.
is this the two fantasy football leagues?
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, it's not that big of an issue. Yeah, I don't think you play it, right?
I don't actually know.
Yeah, fair enough. But it's a good way to get people to watch the league, right? Like you're gonna have people watching Istra Slaven for if they have Filet in the squad, Kadušić, whoever, Sterkalj or Muric. You're gonna have players tuning in, and then so obviously last season we got a fantasy HNL app. So now you got an app on your phone that you can, same as FPL, except that it's the unofficial fantasy.
Mhm.
It had to change its name 3-4 days ago because I think obviously Supersport HNL were like, hey, we're making this fantasy. Can you just not use our name? So now it's been renamed into Fantasy Crow, which obviously stands for Croatia. And 3 days before the league starts, Fantasy Supersport HNL released their official fantasy for the league, which I tried to log in immediately just to see how it is. Didn't receive the activation code. Received it like free. Listen to this. Received it like 3 hours later, and they were and in the email it says when you receive this, actually, when you requested for this, you have an hour to use it. I'm like, well, that's gone to waste because obviously it's been 3 hours.
Too much demand.
No, sadly, it isn't too much demand because people have barely, barely used it. It's shocking how bad the interface is.
Mm.
You can't if you put in your subs and you have your starting 11 here, you cannot just drag the subs into the team. You got to remove the first team player,
Mm.
remove the substitute player you want to bring in, and then you got to assign the substitute player first, so he goes into the first team. If you want to change your formation, oh, God forbid you want to do that, then everything is shuffled up. It's just random how they put players in. So
So it looks like it's something that they've rushed to release 3 days
very,
before the
very
season
much
and
rushed.
therefore haven't finished.
Yeah, and the prices are shocking, to say the least. Rakitic is worth 12.5 million, which is pretty much the same as Mieres, Petkovic, and Livaya, which Rakitic isn't a player that's gonna get a loads of goal contributions as the three main strikers of the league. So I mean, and there's more prices, but I do not want to open it again.
I mean,
I opened it once and that's
it
it.
always tickles me when it is the smaller leagues doing fantasy, but they still seem to follow the same pricing structure as the English Premier League. I did the Slovenian one, and they were like a couple of years ago, like Rudy Posivancas is worth 10 million. Like, no, I mean, like he's literally worth about 500 grand, maybe. He's just like scale down to realistic economics, please.
Well, yeah, that's a problem with fantasy, but yeah, so the unofficial app last season was very good. It only had problems at the start in the first round, and then after that, it was pretty sales moving. The prices are okay. You can build a good squad here. In the official, you can really have just one good player,
Mm.
and if you try to have two, you're not gonna have anybody else from the top four sides.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
really it's stupid pricing.
Mhm.
So but in the unofficial, you can have a full team of all top four teams, and you can bet on, oh, this guy's probably gonna start. They're probably gonna play a few minutes, so you can have a pretty good side because the prices are actually done well.
yeah. Have
And
they paid
so
you
that
12.5 million for that
sadly,
endorsement?
no, no, they haven't. This is just so stupid from the official Supersport HNL to not only rush this, but rush it so badly that it's shockingly bad.
Mhm.
And I think that the team you pick at the start, I think you can just pick a whole new team every round in the official.
I
Which
mean, I don't know if you've seen the fantasy EFL
EFL,
one. Yeah, so they've launched one this year, and it's you pick 7 players, but you do pick a different 7 players each week.
okay,
And it's yeah. See, I do play fantasy, because it's just you have like work leagues and stuff like that, and I probably invest more time in thinking what the name of the team will be than who's actually in the team, because I don't know the EPL, but I
yeah,
do know Charlie XGX is a good name. So that's about as much thought goes into it, but it's so counterintuitive when you're logging into it that you are essentially let's just pick different players each round, because you pick them across the 3 divisions as well. It's
yeah,
not like it's normal pricing. It's just it's just weird. It's
whoever,
like there's a formula that works, and it's across all sports. There's a formula that works. Just stick with that formula, please.
yeah. And I it's just too I hate it so much. Like, but thankfully, obviously, but I also hate the idea that they saw this unofficial app for the Fancy HNL. They saw it had a pretty good player base of now it has over 7,000 players, which for the HNL is pretty good. You're gonna have at least like 4,000 that are gonna stick to the end. You're gonna have a few more jump into the middle. That's probably going to come around to 5 to 6,000 players that are probably going to be changing their squads every week, who are probably going to be watching matches, which gives them a good incentive. So I hate that they didn't merge with them, because the app already looks good,
Mhm.
opposed to the website that they've tried to make.
Yeah, they've just tried to basically kill off the competition. That's all they're
And
trying to do. Let's be honest.
yeah, and they killed themselves off.
Yeah, they just need to work with
I
rather than
think
work against.
I think somebody last week was probably like, hey, there's this fantasy HNL app. Should we try to make something, before the season starts? Well, the season is in a week. Are you sure we want to do that? Yeah, fuck it. 3 days
Yeah,
before, it looks semi done. Just launch it.
yeah. Do it properly, please.
Yeah,
It's
do it
better to
properly,
wait a season.
and do not, and please, you cannot tell me that a midfielder that's 36 years old, that hasn't really had a career of contributing to goals every game, is worth the same as Livaya, Petkovic, and Mieres.
Maybe they know more than we do.
I hope
And
that
they probably just
Dragic
gave it
and
to an intern. Um,
I hope so. And sadly for that intern, he did his job. I mean, he did it fast, but poorly,
yeah.
which is to be expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the end of my second rant. So if you want to play Fantasy HNL, please install the Fantasy Crow app on App Store, or again, I'm not sponsored. I just hate it so much that I want people to play the unofficial app and just give it to the Super Sport official HNL, whatever
Yeah.
they call it, because it's so poorly done. I'm surprised they didn't get like, oh, if you want to buy Levia, you gotta actually pay us, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah. So let's hope for a season full of goals, full of unexpected victories, maybe a title fight, maybe a relegation fight, you know, if nothing else comes about.
Full of Easter playing on Fridays.
Well,
That's
they're already
it's
starting
starting us
tomorrow,
to mean to
so
go on.
every weekend Istra on Friday and HNL Monday when we have it like 3 times a season. Let's hope it's good.
Yeah, I mean, if Easter do beat our predictions and manage to get into Europe, then we're going to be in trouble because they can't play Thursday, Friday.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Fuck.
I know
Well,
Monday.
they're just gonna get knocked out immediately, and they're just gonna be like, "Yep, put us on Friday, boys."
Yeah, we'll wreck the coefficient just to keep the tradition.
See, it rhymes. We
Yeah,
have some poetry. But yeah. Anyways, Rijeka is about to finish the first half, leading 1-0, having a lot of chances from what I can see whenever I look to my second screen. So let's focus on the remaining 2 matches, and see you maybe next week
yeah,
when we have hopefully more transfers. We'll have the draw to talk about for the playoffs, and really see if our who
and
can
league
get
games.
in league games, like who can really get into Europe and how Šibenik looks.
Yeah,
Hopefully they don't get battered by Osijek.
we'll see.
We'll see. But yeah, thank you for listening. It's been almost 2 hours, which pretty good.
We're 5.5 hours shorter than the Terrace podcast's lower league preview from earlier this
Oh
week.
my god. I've seen 2 podcasts released for the High L, obviously 2 I listened to, Tribina and Offensiva. All of them were over 3 hours. And currently I watched Tribina for an hour.
Mhm.
And then I watched Offensiva for like 20 minutes, and I was like, okay, shit, actually got to prepare for my podcast. So hopefully I can. So I don't know if I'm gonna actually watch the previews before the actual season starts.
Yeah, no. I mean, for this, we'll get out for the morning. So this is a full-on HNL Friday for everyone. 2 hours of this preview, and then straight into Dynamo.
Yeah,
Istra.
straight into Dinamo Istra.
Yeah,
And if you're late, straight into
hard alcohol.
I was gonna say, if you're missing us on Friday, and if you catch us on Saturday, you're gonna have this before Gorica Varaždin, which is, let's be honest, the real match of the weekend.
Yeah, and you're gonna think, what do those people know? Istra just beat Dynamo 4-0.
They're saying Dinamo wins the title. Istra is gonna cruise.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, let's get back to the games and see you guys next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.